Against the picturesque landscapes of Oregon, a gruesome tale of paranoia, chaos, and murder unfolds, starting out innocently enough. Valerie Faust, having worked as a guide at a remote cave resort for a long time, is ready to change careers. So, on her last night on the job, Valerie decides to go wild at a party. The wilderness, dark, gloomy caves, a wild party in a cabin from which it's impossible to leave. What could go wrong? 2 murders, one real, the other a product of filmmakers' imagination. Become so entangled that to solve the case, detectives had to review numerous videos featuring their prime suspect. Shane Moore was the middle child of a family of 5. His sister Kelly was 4 years younger than him. The brother and sister had been competing with each other from an early age. So, when Shane decided to go to law school in California, Kelly enrolled there too. In the early 90s, Kelly was already working as a corporate lawyer, while Shane realized that it wasn't for him. He opened an antique bookstore in San Francisco. He read every book he sold, which helped him with sales. It was a successful business. Of course, his sister couldn't let her brother surpass her in the literary field, so she and her husband, actor Dan Reed, wrote a book called Fatal Medicine about Janine Jones, a serial killer. The book was quite successful. Some publications recognized it as a bestseller, and in 1991, it was adapted for television. A month after the book's publication, their first child was born, a girl named Aisling Tucker Moore Reed, who everyone called Tucker. The couple soon had 2 more children, but the bond between the mother and her eldest daughter was special. Everyone noticed this. Tucker grew up in a very artistic environment. Kelly surrounded her with love and support, attended all her performances, did her makeup, hairstyles, and outfits. Kelly put her career on hold for the sake of her daughter's future career. By 2000, she and her husband had divorced, and since Kelly was not working, her parents supported her financially. In fact, they provided for her and her children. They gave her a set amount every month and bought a charming house near the ranch in Oregon where they themselves settled. It was a beautiful ranch, located on 150 acres of land. Also in 2000, Shane moved in with his parents to take care of their sick father. Kelly and Shane's father had once served as a Navy admiral, but now he was suffering from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. For 6.5 years, Shane took care of his father and did all the work on the ranch. Although he and Kelly still didn't always see eye to eye, Uncle Shane was his niece Tucker's biggest fan. He was very proud of her performances in local productions and often talked about it to his friends. As Tucker grew older, she joined a rock band, sang, acted, created costumes, and wrote articles for the newspaper. Together with her mother and younger sister, she wrote a book in her teenage years, which became the first in a series and was also popular. But one event severely darkened the previously happy life of the young woman. After graduating from high school in 2010, Tucker enrolled at the University of Southern California, a prestigious institution known for training journalists, actors, and theater performers. However, an unforeseen event disrupted her dreams. Tucker was dating a young man who, according to her, wanted to take their relationship to a more intimate level, but she wasn't ready for that. He insisted and essentially got his way. The girl accused him of assault and filed a police report. However, neither the university, the police, nor the prosecutor's office found evidence of his guilt, but Tucker decided to go further. At the university, she was a reporter and editor of the student newspaper, and also ran a blog called All in Bandages. The blog no longer exists, but in it, Tucker, who spoke out against violence, shared her experiences. She also founded a coalition against violence at the university. This brought a lot of attention to her story. The blog was quite helpful overall, with Tucker sharing useful articles and resources for other girls. However, she mentioned the name of her alleged assailant, and after she failed to get support from the university, the police, or the prosecutor's office, the young man filed a counterclaim. She had to delete all posts about him. They settled the matter in court, but the incident left a mark on her. Tucker dropped out of school and returned to Oregon, where she got a job as a reporter. At first, everything was going well, but gradually the rivalry between Kelly and Shane resumed. Kelly had her own vision of how the ranch should be managed to be profitable. The relationship became tense, arguments became frequent, and on July 26, 2016, an emergency call was received from an agitated woman reporting that Shane Moore was lying on the porch injured and in urgent need of medical help. The woman who called identified herself as Carla Triber, a notary. She heard the shot, but didn't know who fired or how badly Shane was injured. She refused to go out on the porch to check if he was alive. However, she handed the phone to Carlton Olson. Shane's neighbor, who began to assist the man, following the operator's instructions. It was very important for someone to try to help the injured man. The ranch was located 35 kilometers from the nearest hospital, and it took the medics half an hour to reach the victim. Unfortunately, this was too long a period to help him. The man died from a single gunshot wound to the chest. When the police arrived, they detained everyone present at the ranch, at least to question them. However, the woman who had called emergency services, notary Carla Treiber, was not at the ranch. She was in such a panic that after handing the phone to Carlton Olson, she fled the scene. When the police managed to contact her, she stated that she did not witness the shooting personally, but knew who was not on the porch at the time of the shot. According to her, Shane, Tucker, and Kelly were on the porch. When the police questioned 59-year-old Kelly, she unleashed all her hatred on her dead brother. Kelly claimed that Shane was the black sheep of the family. She alleged that he not only used illegal substances, but also manufactured them on the ranch. The woman told the police that she and her daughter were forced to move to the ranch due to her brother's dangerous behavior because they feared for their aging mother. However, Shane supposedly perceived their presence as a threat. 9 months prior, the tension had reached a breaking point. In September 2015, Tucker, who was not shy about using strong language, insulted her uncle. Shane took a plastic oil can and, in a fit of rage, threw it at the door behind which the girl was standing. The door was closed, but was essentially just a protective screen, so the oil can flew through it and hit Tucker in the face. Of course, she filed a complaint against her uncle. He was charged with 4th-degree domestic violence and was prohibited from contacting his niece. Kelly told the detectives that this only infuriated Shane further, and his threats increased. She claimed that he threatened to kill them if Tucker didn't drop the charges. According to Kelly, the man went into a rage upon learning that she had invited an appraiser to assess the value of the ranch. She wanted to sell it, and Shane, who lived on the ranch, was not thrilled with the idea. However, regarding the specific moment of the shooting, Kelly refused to testify, stating that the trauma of the incident prevented her from remembering what happened and who shot Shane. 26-year-old Tucker, on the other hand, claimed that she shot her uncle in self-defense. Through tears, she assured the detectives that she did not intend to shoot and thought she had to cock the hammer before firing. The detectives immediately found this statement strange. What did she expect to achieve by pulling the trigger, sincerely believing that there would be no shot? A little later, the girl admitted that she had found the revolver, which most likely belonged to her grandfather. Tucker wanted to check if it was loaded, so she went out onto the porch and fired it. She then handed it to her mother, who placed it in a room under a napkin so the notary wouldn't be scared by the sight of the weapon. Thus, the women prepared everything in case they needed to protect the house. Tucker was arrested on charges of manslaughter. She posted bail the next morning and was released from jail. Tucker and her mother firmly stuck to the story they told the police. They claimed they were afraid of Shane, and Tucker shot him to protect herself and her mother. However, certain aspects puzzled the police. The fact is, on that fateful day, it wasn't the notary who first called emergency services, but Shane. He called 911 at 1:40 p.m. because he himself was frightened. Shane told the operator that Tucker had fired a gun that morning and he took it as a warning. He explained to the operator that he was expecting the notary's arrival, and given his relationship with his sister and niece and the fact that Tucker chose that day to practice shooting, he asked if he could count on the sheriff's presence because he was scared and didn't want any trouble. Unfortunately, the police don't get involved in such domestic disputes, and the sheriff didn't respond to his request by sending an officer to the ranch. Additionally, investigators were puzzled by the fact that when Shane was killed, he had no weapon, and he wasn't even standing near the door. He was almost 2 meters away from it. Furthermore, Tucker shot the man straight in the chest. Moreover, when specialists examined the murder weapon, they found other controversial points. Based on the state of the revolver, it had been fired only once. But Tucker herself confirmed that she fired it in the morning. This means that before Shane's murder, someone had removed the spent shell and reloaded the weapon so it was fully loaded. Suddenly, Tucker's statements didn't sound as truthful and innocent. This indicated premeditation in the crime. The police needed an outside perspective on the family dynamics, so they contacted Shane and Kelly's brother, Ryan. After talking to him, the main characters in this case revealed themselves from a new angle. Ryan considered Shane the kindest and most pleasant member of their family. Like Kelly, he had moved closer to their parents, but unlike her, he was not idle. All the work on the ranch relied on him. He tended to the garden, the forest, the house, and took care of their sick father and then their elderly mother after their father's death. After both parents passed away, the ranch was supposed to be split equally between Kelly and Shane. Other family members, including Ryan, did not lay claim to the ranch at all. However, Kelly was clearly not satisfied with this and came up with various ways to squeeze everything she could out of the ranch right away, thereby encroaching on her brother's share as well. After their father's death, Kelly forced their mother to take out loans and credits from the bank. Additionally, the ranch was adorned with a magnificent forest, which Kelly wanted to sell for timber. Naturally, Shane disliked all these actions because the loans and the plan to cut down the forest could greatly devalue the ranch, and accordingly, his share of the inheritance. The ranch was worth $6 million. In other words, Kelly was dipping into not only her inheritance, but also Shane's. It got to the point where Kelly tried to include a condition in their mother's will stating that if Shane harmed her or her family, he would immediately lose his right to inheritance. Aggressive behavior would include not only attacking the women, but even damaging their car. Learning about his sister's cunning plans, Shane wanted their mother to rewrite the ranch to both him and Kelly now, splitting it 50-50ths. Of course, he would continue to take care of their mother, but would be sure that Kelly would stop her encroachments. And their mother agreed. She was ready to sign such a document. That was precisely why Shane had invited the notary to the ranch that day. In other words, Shane died on the very day he was supposed to get what he wanted. Regarding Ryan's relationship with Kelly, he said they stopped talking after a family celebration. He directly accused his sister of taking advantage of their parents, after which she attacked him with a fireplace poker. According to him, Tucker's temperament was no different from her mother's. The police also interviewed Stacy McKenzie, another of Shane's neighbors. Once again, her words contradicted the testimonies of Kelly and Tucker. She said that Shane was the one who lived in fear, not his sister and niece. On the day he died, Shane was plagued by bad premonitions. That morning, he told Stacy that he was afraid he was going to die. So, when she heard a shot in the middle of the day, Stacy ran outside and found Shane lying on the porch. She couldn't believe her eyes. Her friend was lying in a pool of blood, gasping in pain. Tucker was standing over him with a revolver in her hand, shouting, "Just die already!" Tucker was angry that Shane was taking too long to die. Hearing her words, her mother shouted, "What? He's not dead yet? Why aren't you dead yet, Shane?" And all of this was accompanied by obscene language. Stacy also mentioned that Kelly was the greediest person she had ever known. Kelly didn't believe that her brother genuinely cared for their parents and thought it was just a ploy to get all the inheritance. But in reality, after their mother's death, Shane wanted to take his half of the ranch's value in cash and simply move away from his sister. To avoid any disputes over the will, he wanted to settle everything now. Despite all the facts uncovered by the investigators, the police lacked evidence that conclusively proved Tucker's actions were intentional. Therefore, the prosecution could only charge her with involuntary manslaughter, and most likely she would be acquitted, with her actions deemed self-defense. However, 6 months later, detectives received unexpected help from Tucker herself. Her lawyer approached the prosecution and handed over a video. He accompanied it with an explanation that the video unequivocally proved it was self-defense. He assured them Tucker would be immediately acquitted. But when the prosecutors reviewed the video, they came to the opposite conclusion. Tucker was filming the video. She was providing commentary on what was happening. The girl filmed the room where the notary, Kelly's mother, and Tucker herself were present. She captured how her uncle approached the house and peered inside from a distance through the window. Throughout this time, she insisted he was dangerous. However, it was difficult to believe this because the man walked very slowly past the house, unarmed, in flip-flops and a t-shirt. He did nothing and did not come close to the windows. During this time, her mother started shouting that she thought the notary had been invited to add an additional clause to the will. Therefore, she tore up the prepared document. Apparently, the man saw Kelly tear up the paper prepared by the notary or heard his sister's loud cries and approached the front door. He opened it slightly and asked what was going on. But he did not enter the house, and as soon as he heard that his niece, whom he was forbidden to approach, was inside, he stepped back onto the porch. Kelly and Tucker raised a terrible racket. Tucker yelled for her mother to get the gun. Kelly ran to the door, and Tucker dashed for the pistol, which was under a napkin, and also ran to the front door. She yelled, "Get out of here!" and fired. Apparently, her mother was only pretending to fight with her brother at the front door as he was found too far away from her. According to the police, Kelly opened the door, but Shane was not behind her. However, this did not stop her. She shot her unarmed uncle directly in the chest. After that, there were terrible screams from the mortally wounded man. From the room where the notary and Kelly's mother remained, the front door was not visible. However, the notary confirmed that Shane did not enter the house. After viewing the video, the prosecution charged 28-year-old Tucker with first-degree murder. When she was denied bail, Tucker reacted in a highly theatrical manner. She pretended to faint and screamed behind the courtroom doors. Her wails could be heard far beyond the room. It's hard to believe, but the story gets even more intriguing. After the bail hearing, a local filmmaker approached the police. He explained that after Tucker was released on bail 2 years ago, she had starred in his film titled From the Dark. The film crew had no idea that she was charged with involuntary manslaughter because they didn't check the actors' backgrounds. Moreover, she went by the stage name Vin Reed. Vin Reed, or Tucker Moore Reed, played the lead role of Valerie Faust in the film. Valerie had worked as a tour guide in Oregon caves for many years, but decided to let loose at her farewell party. Unexpectedly, Valerie finds herself armed in the darkness, illuminated only by the light from her phone's flashlight. Suddenly, another person emerges from the darkness, trying to calm her down and persuade her to hand over the weapon, but consumed by fear and panic, she shoots him. She believes it's self-defense, but in reality, Valerie has killed him. The similarities between the film's plot and her real-life crime are simply chilling. Investigators couldn't believe it. First, Tucker personally filmed herself killing her uncle. Then, after being released on bail for this crime, she read the script, auditioned, and starred in the lead role in a film that almost completely mirrors the murder she committed. But watching her performance in court as a defendant charged with first-degree murder was not possible. The prosecution feared they might not win the case. Surely, among the 12 jurors, there would be at least one who would believe Tucker's claim that she was afraid of her uncle. Therefore, Tucker was allowed to plead guilty to involuntary manslaughter, and the charge of first-degree murder was dropped. In 2020, the 30-year-old woman was sentenced to 6 years in prison. She filed an appeal, but it was rejected. Interestingly, before she agreed to the plea deal with the prosecutor, additional charges were brought against her. While awaiting trial in prison, during a search on January 1, 2020, prohibited substances were found in her belongings in her cell, some of the strongest and most dangerous among them. Tucker was charged with possession of prohibited substances and contraband. This woman literally gives the prosecution evidence against herself. First, she provided them with a video proving her guilt in her uncle's murder, and then she continued to break the law in prison before the trial began. Nevertheless, considering the time Tucker spent in prison before her trial, she could be released as early as November 25, 2024, when she will be 35 years old. Her mother, Kelly, was not charged because investigators could not find evidence of conspiracy, although they couldn't shake the thought that she played not a minor role in this. She still lives in Oregon in a house bought for her by her parents, close to her beloved mother.